Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today's project is going to be a small one, but an essential one, and you might be wondering why I've saved such an essential project for episode 104 of the Minecraft Survival Guide. The fact is, I don't tend to build chicken cookers all that often. By the way, it's a chicken cooker. If you can tell from the video title already, we're going to do a chicken cooker today. And the main reason is that I just have other food sources. I've been farming cows and sheep basically since episode 2. We had some chickens lying around the house for a little while, not doing a great deal. Eventually, those all got out thanks to the fact that I have a pressure plate in my house, or they just kind of wandered off generally. And since then, I've been eating basically whatever I can scrounge up. I've been farming cows for beef. Right now, I've been munching through some fish because we have a guardian farm that cooks them in lava on the way down, and they drop cooked fish as a result. So we haven't really needed a chicken cooker, even though chicken cookers tend to be a fairly essential part of an early game Minecraft world, especially if you're on a server. It's nice to set up a chicken cooker just so you can have an infinite supply of chicken whenever anybody happens to swing by and collect some. The reason I want to do it today is mainly because it's a useful skill to have, but also because we get to demonstrate a few interesting aspects of redstone in the process of making this chicken cooker. And people tend to ask me when I make these videos, people will leave in the comments that they want to see like an overview of redstone or like some general videos about redstone. And let me tell you why I don't tend to go into just how a redstone mechanic works in a vacuum, how it works in isolation, how it works outside of the context of gadgets and stuff. First of all, I'm not exactly a redstone genius. I make little gadgets here and there, and I can get by with redstone, but I'm not the kind of person who can tell you the ins and outs of it and how it works perfectly. If you want that, by the way, there is a series out there called Dissecting Minecraft by Logical Geek Boy and Methods. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Really useful series if you just want to know what each redstone component does and how various things interact. They're really going to go into technical Minecraft in that series as well. So I think of it as a good companion to this series if you want to go and check that out. The other thing really is that personally, the way I learn redstone is using it in practical ways rather than learning the theory of things. I like to learn how stuff works just by testing it out and building stuff and making mistakes and that kind of thing. So learning the theory of like what a redstone comparator or a redstone repeater does can only take me so far. I need to see exactly how it can be put to use in a contraption before I really understand it. So that's kind of the teaching method I'm going for in this series. It's learning the practical things rather than the theory. It's like doing the practical side of a driving test rather than doing the theoretical side of a driving test where you just learn the rule book, basically. It's kind of how I'm thinking about it. But your mileage may vary on that score. It might actually be a better way for you to learn if you kind of pour through the Minecraft wiki or a slightly more kind of, note-by-note tutorial about how redstone works. Me, I like to work on little projects, and I like to have you guys learn a little bit about redstone as we go. So today, we're going to come out the back of the farmhouse, actually, because I figured since day one, we have been farming sheep, we have been farming cows, we haven't really farmed chickens at all, except for the ones that we had running around the house. And this little area out the back of the farmhouse was previously a netherwart farm and a flower farm that I didn't really use. It was where I demonstrated bone mealing 2 tall flowers using that observer clock, and I figured we may as well completely clear all of that out and make way for a chicken coop of sorts. The thing about this chicken coop is that it's going to be cooking the chickens as they hatch, basically. Or not quite as they hatch, but as they grow up from hatchlings. The thing about chickens is that they get bred in 2 ways, or they are produced in 2 ways. You can just breed them, one chicken with another chicken. Is that a chicken? Oh no, that's a flower. I was hoping there was a chicken around for us to demonstrate with. You can breed them using seeds that you just get from punching grass. You can breed them using wheat seeds, or you can throw eggs, and occasionally one of the eggs will hatch into a chicken. Sometimes even it will hatch into 4 chickens. There is a very rare chance that one egg will produce 4 chickens, which is kind of cool. A nice little Easter egg, as it were. So what we're going to do today is set up a means by which we can collect eggs in a hopper that's going to be kind of... the eggs are going to be pooped out by chickens. They're going to end up going into a dispenser. The dispenser will throw them in much the same way that a player right-clicking will throw eggs, and that can occasionally hatch a chicken. inside of a machine, which eventually, when the chicken grows up, is going to be able to cook the chicken using lava. Basically, if an animal dies when it's on fire, we've covered this earlier in the series, I think, but if an animal dies when it's on fire, it will drop the cooked version of whatever meat it has instead of the raw version. So if you set fire to a sheep or a cow and it dies while it's on fire, it will produce cooked mutton or cooked beef. The same goes for chicken. So we're going to take advantage of a few fun little redstone mechanics, and we are going to cook a few chickens today. But before we do that, I want to go over a couple of redstone mechanics with you, and these are basically the materials. I think we won't need anything else. We might pick up a couple of other components as we go, but the first thing I want to demonstrate is a really cool trick using redstone torches. I'll use these oak planks as my example blocks. We're going to put one here, and this is a redstone torch. Redstone torches are a really neat component. They are just like a torch in that you can place them on the sides or the tops of blocks. You can't dangle them from the ceiling or anything like that, but they are able to be placed attached to blocks like so or like this. And redstone torches provide 15 redstone signal, like so. For example, if we put down a redstone dust there, you'll see it's powered 15. Let me actually go and grab a lever really fast so I can demonstrate this next thing. What happens when you power the block that a redstone torch is attached to? For example, this redstone torch here is attached to this wood block. If we power it from a different source, taking out the redstone dust there, it will actually turn off the redstone torch like so. So this redstone dust here will no longer be powered because this lever is powering the block the torch is attached to and turning it off. This forms quite a substantial portion of a lot of redstone circuits. But what happens, you may think, if a redstone torch powers its own block? What if it powers the block that it itself is attached to? And that is the basis of the mechanic we're going to explore today, because as you heard right there, the redstone torch powers the block, it pulses a whole bunch of times like it can't work out what's going on, and then it fizzles out. Listen to the sound effect. There you go, it's got that kind of like sound effect that means it's burnt out. Now there's a fun aspect to this. I'm going to turn the mob sounds down, by the way, because those sheep are starting to get on my nerves a little bit. There's a fun aspect to this where if you place a block, if you update a block basically anywhere around the redstone torch now, say for example I place some redstone dust here, watch what happens. It goes through the same cycle again. It pulses again, because right now this torch is off, but it really should be on because there's nothing really stopping it from cycling through again. The main reason it does that is just to prevent it from continuously looping through this same cycle. But by updating a block around it, you can get it to pulse again. There is a smaller version of this circuit that you can make by placing a block above this redstone torch here and then placing a redstone dust there. And that will basically create the same circuit because the redstone torch is powering this block here. The adjacent redstone dust gets powered by this block, and the redstone dust being on top of there powers this block, creating this kind of feedback loop, which eventually shuts off our redstone torch. And now, as before, if we place a block or any kind of item around it, if I place a block there, it does take a little bit of time to cool down. But if I place a block there now, you'll see it does the same thing. If I wait a couple of seconds and then take that block away again, or I take that block away again, there we go. It does exactly the same thing each time. That is part of the mechanic that we are going to use to set up our little circuit here today. Because if we put a dispenser on top of here, it does exactly the same thing. In fact, what it does is power the dispenser 8 times. And that happens to be a really useful number for this circuit right here. Because what we're going to do now, it's a little bit nerve-wracking with the lava bucket in the dispenser. We're going to update this redstone torch so that the dispenser with the lava bucket in is powered 8 times. So that should take the lava out, put the lava back in, take the lava out, put the lava back in, like so. There we go. That's a little bit weird, but it works. And if I take that block away again, same thing. So what we can do is use this to cook chickens, but only adult chickens. And as we build up this circuit today, you guys will see exactly how that's going to work. But there we go. Redstone torch burnout demonstration. Really interesting, very useful mechanic, and can be used in a variety of ways. You don't see it all that often, but there are some neat little exceptions that we can leverage that for. The main thing we're going to be doing today is using it to cook ourselves some chicken. So I've taken all my supplies out of that shulker box. I think we want the main output chest to be here. So we're going to put that there. We're going to put a hopper into this, and I think we want some kind of slab in there. Let's put an oak slab. Normally, you would probably want to avoid building this out of wood because it's got lava in the dispenser and you don't want to set things on fire. Even when it's pulsing in and out of the dispenser like that, there might be a split second in which the lava can catch something on fire. So in the average world, you might not want to build this out of wood. In my case, I have fire tick turned off, so I don't need to worry about lava catching things on fire. It's not going to be a problem. Nothing's going to burn. So what we're going to do now is place a spruce plank behind there, and we're going to add 2 dispensers on top of here. This one right here is going to fire the eggs. That one right there is going to fire the lava. Now, the cool thing is, even though there is a slab here, this dispenser is still going to be able to fire eggs out of it as though they were thrown by a player, and that's what's going to hatch the chickens. Now, in front of these, we're going to be placing the trap doors. We're going to pop those on those 2 blocks like that. And the fun thing about this, remove the top slab, by the way, you don't need that there. That's going to stop the lava from coming out if it stays there. The fun thing about having the trap doors like this is if you want to, if you feel a little bit bad for the little chickens that end up in here, you can occasionally let them out. So what I want to do is have like a chicken pen around the outside here and have all of the chickens kind of hop out of here if we want to, you know, have some chickens here for aesthetic purposes, maybe. And I've run back into the house because I needed to sleep and I needed a redstone comparator. That was something I forgot to put in my little project shulker box. So we're going to have a comparator reading the contents of this dispenser here, and that's going to start a redstone signal coming out of here anytime this dispenser fills up with eggs, which is going to do if we place a hopper on the side here and have some chickens sat on top of that hopper. Now, of course, chickens are likely to wander off, so we will need to put some sort of barrier around the outside of this on a more permanent basis to make sure that the chickens will not escape. And in fact, for the purposes of getting some chickens in here, I'm actually going to build this up a little bit higher for now because we will need some chickens to start producing eggs in there in a second. Now, around the comparator here, I've placed this little ring of redstone dust. 3 redstone dust so that the signal comes out of this side of the comparator and is fed back into the side. Hello everyone, post-commentary Pixlriffs here. Now, I haven't made a massive mistake this time, just one small note, because I was testing this after I finished the video. I was having a look around in creative mode to see if this could be refined even further, and I discovered that those 2 pieces of redstone dust there and there, not necessary at all. All we need is 1 piece of redstone dust coming out of the back of the comparator to kind of update whatever redstone signal is coming out of there. So the other 2 pieces, don't worry about it. They're going to be there for the rest of the video because I didn't feel like re-recording this entire thing, but they're not necessary. So ignore those 2 pieces, make sure there's just 1 piece coming out of the comparator, and you'll be good. All right, on with the video. Now, the reason for this is actually kind of interesting. We're going to place a redstone torch on the side of here, and the comparator is actually what's going to update this redstone torch. Eventually, we're going to place a block on top of there. We're going to place redstone dust on top of this dispenser, and this little circuit is actually going to power both dispensers, believe it or not. The power of redstone, the fact that it's powering through this dispenser onto this dispenser here, because the redstone dust is just going to be sat on top of there, it will actually power both dispensers, meaning that eggs will fire out of this one. At the same time, lava fires out of this one. Now, I'm going to block up the other side here as well because we don't want the baby chickens escaping from the front. The idea is that each time this dispenser down here starts to fill up with eggs, it's going to dispense 8 chickens, and it's going to dispense the lava 8 times. Now, once the baby chickens end up in here, because when they come out of the eggs, they're just going to be babies, they will have a little bit of time to grow up in this little area here. And then once they grow into adult size, they're actually going to be tall enough that the lava from this dispenser is going to cook them every time that activates. So it actually kind of works on a sort of timer that depends on when the chickens in here lay eggs and how quickly the chickens in here grow up. And around the outside of this, we're going to be building ourselves a nice aesthetic looking chicken coop, which we should have enough space for over here. But for all this to make any sense, we need to get some chickens. And for that, we will need some eggs. And as you can see, my egg chest is completely empty. I used up a lot of eggs making the cakes that are in the bakery at Founder's Forge. But luckily for me, I found a couple of chickens over at Founder's Forge, and I sneakily put them in a couple of traps. Now, there should be one over here. There are a couple of chickens in this one, and oh, I just fell in the hole with them. Well, I can let them out in a second anyway, because yes, they have provided us with a lot of eggs. Fantastic stuff. Well done, you. You can go free now. We'll let you guys out of the hole. And I don't know, they might want to stay in there for a little while longer. Who can say? But there should be another one over here as well that I won't fall into this time. Smart. Oh, the same amount of eggs as well. Fantastic. Great. So yeah, I left these guys in here for a little while. These ladies in here, actually, because they're egg-laying chickens after all. And they have provided us with more than enough eggs to get this project started. We could always breed up a couple more chickens inside the machine itself because we can always just throw a few seeds in there, but I think what we'll probably do is at least start this off by throwing a whole bunch of eggs into the hole here. Now, of course, these are going to have to be adult chickens before they can produce any eggs themselves, but chickens will naturally grow up. You can even feed them a few seeds if you get impatient. We probably want maybe like at least half a dozen chickens in here to start off with, but perhaps even a few more once we get going. And once we got enough chickens in there, I'm afraid we are going to actually block them in. We're going to put an oak stair there, and each of the surrounding blocks here is going to be an oak stair as well, because that's going to form part of the roof, and we need to seal that off so we can open up this block here, because that is where some all-important redstone dust is going to go for our dispenser mechanism. As you can see, that is now powering both of those dispensers, including the egg one down here that's going to receive the signal of this comparator right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lava bucket in the top dispenser like so, and I'm going to put some eggs in the bottom dispenser, and I'm going to show you what happens. Now, to complete the image of this being a chicken coop, I'm actually going to start making a roof like so. This shouldn't affect any of the active blocks in here. It shouldn't affect any of the redstone or anything like that. And over the top here, we can put a row of slabs like so, because that avoids the redstone at the top there. We're going to turn the rest of this into a little coop in a minute. But for now, those chickens in there, once they eventually grow up on top of that hopper, should just lay eggs continuously, and the eggs will all end up in this dispenser. And you'll notice that as soon as an egg ends up in this dispenser, it gets fired out of the dispenser at the front, because this comparator circuit activates and updates the redstone torch. So anytime this comparator starts to receive a signal now, it will actually activate the redstone torch and pulse the circuit, and that will push through the whole system. Now, you might wonder what's going to happen with that little cooldown time, because when eventually these chickens grow up, they're going to be producing eggs pretty regularly. And with the dispenser only pulsing 8 times, every time you end up with a certain amount of eggs in there, it's going to shut off again, right? It's only going to be able to push a certain amount of eggs through, and then the comparator isn't going to update regularly. Do we have any chickens in here, by the way? Oh, we do. There you go. Fantastic. I will show you what's going on with them in a moment. But the cool thing about this circuit is that it will actually chuck eggs out faster than it can receive eggs in from the hopper. So this is actually going to start to even out over time. Every time this comparator updates, including if it starts to output a higher signal strength, it's going to trip this redstone torch circuit. And so when the eggs in this dispenser reach 11, it's actually going to send out an additional redstone power, which updates the comparator, updating the redstone torch, and it's going to throw eggs out again until it gets to 3 eggs left. And I've tested this in a creative test world with a whole bunch of egg-laying chickens, and the number in here rarely reaches above 11. One alternative way you can do this, of course, is to set up a comparator circuit like we've seen before, where you have a repeater over here that feeds the signal round at full strength, pulsing the comparator and powering the dispenser using the block next to it. That is something you can do, but I don't really think it's necessary for this design, because I think it's working pretty well on its own, just with the torch updating that and powering both dispensers. So let's talk about what happens to the chickens in here, because that little chicken in there has a hitbox, and you might think, wait a second, when the lava comes out of that dispenser, it's actually going to impact the top of that chicken's head, because his head is above the level of the dispenser. Now, if I press F3B, you'll notice actually his hitbox, ignore the blue lines, that's the other chicken's line of sight. His hitbox is actually lower than the top of that dispenser, and the lava pulses out there so fast, not to mention the fact that he is standing on a slab right now, so he is raised up a little bit, and the lava can't flow down into that block. The lava isn't going to affect the baby chickens in any way. They also don't jump up and down or anything like that. So that baby chicken in there is going to be right as rain until it grows up into an adult. And when it does that, the increased height of this slab here, plus the increased height of the chicken's hitbox, means that it will get into the range of the lava that's being pushed out by this dispenser, and that will cook and eventually kill it. Then, with this hopper underneath here, the items will get pulled through the slab, and we'll get a cooked chicken and probably a couple of feathers ending up in this chest. And I would love to demonstrate this for you right now, but I need to wait for these folks in here to lay a few more eggs before that happens. So it's going to be a little bit of time waiting for these chickens to grow up. Let's take away the hitboxes there, because the blue lines are going a little bit crazy, and let's take down the blocks around here, and ooh, Oh, there's a thought. I need to replace that one. I need to replace that one with, you know what, we could probably work that into the design. I'm going to turn this whole thing into a chicken coop. So we're going to place some stairs along the back here. We're going to fill this back section up here with spruce planks. All the rest of the blocks in here can get filled in. We could even put some torches in there if you want to keep the entire thing hollow, but we can just fill out the outside like this. That could even be like a little chimney or something like that. We'll keep that there instead of messing too much with the area that's containing those chickens, because I don't want to risk letting any of them out. It was a bit of a pain getting them in there in the first place. We're going to add stairs going all the way up the side like this as a little overhang, and I think we'll probably put one stair on the top like that, just to kind of give this whole thing a little end cap like so. We'll do the same on the opposite side. We will cover this entire thing in stairs so that you can't see any of the redstone. This side panel is all spruce planks, and I need to invert that stair. There we go. We can put inverted stairs underneath each of these just to give it a nice little archway like so. And then I think we'll probably just put 2 stairs on either side like that, just to give it that little kind of thing like it's resting on the ground like that. Kind of like an A-frame chicken coop design. I quite like this, actually. I think it looks pretty cute. And there we go. Not a bad little chicken coop design, if I do say so myself. Now, all we have to do is wait for the chickens in there to grow up and start laying some eggs, and then we'll know whether or not it works. But I think it was working pretty well when I tested it the first time around, so shouldn't have too much to worry about there. But like I said, one of the cool things about this design is the fact that if you open up those 2 trapdoors, you could let out any of the chickens that are held captive in here, and with a little bit of a fence around the side here, we can turn this into a little kind of chicken run, I guess. We can make a little fenced off area where the chickens could roam around if you want to have a couple of free range ones for your farm. So let's grab a few fences and maybe a bit of podzol and some stuff like that we can use for chicken scratch on the ground. Let's do that. There we go, folks. All the waiting has started to pay off. Now, that dispenser just fired a whole bunch of times, but you'll notice it hatched a chicken and the chicken didn't immediately fly up into the lava. The cool thing about the egg throwing mechanic from dispensers is that the chickens that come out don't tend to like bounce up or anything like that, meaning that every egg that gets thrown out of here that has a chance to create a baby chicken will, without worrying about them dying in the lava when it pulses out of that dispenser. I'm pretty sure that's a 100% reliable mechanic as well. I'm not certain if it's going to work that way on the Bedrock edition, but still we will have a decent chicken farm here in Java. Now, obviously, the more eggs you can have those chickens in there lay, the better. So ideally, you really want to fill that thing up with chickens as much as possible before you put the whole farm together. I feel like probably even I have like underestimated the amount of chickens that I would need, but that's just all of the eggs I had on me at the time. So if we can risk opening this thing up, maybe with trapdoors or something like that, then we might want to potentially feed a few more of the chickens in there until they can breed some more chickens to lay more eggs and therefore keep this thing ticking over. But in the fullness of time, that chicken in there is going to grow up into an adult chicken. Then next time a bunch of eggs get thrown out, it's going to be caught in the lava and it's going to cook and end up in this chest here. I'm going to wait around a little bit more until it does, because I really want a proof of concept for this before we wrap up the video. But in the meantime, as you can see, we have a couple of chickens roaming free around the yard, courtesy of a couple of eggs that I threw earlier. We also have some hay bales, some podzol, coarse dirt, a few planted wheat seeds that aren't anywhere near a water source, so they shouldn't grow particularly fast, but they will steadily grow if we leave them out here anyway. Just a little bit of set dressing to make this place look like an active chicken coop instead of a chicken cooking machine. While we're waiting around, here's a quick look at the difference between the hitbox of an adult chicken and a baby chicken. As you can see, the adult has quite a bit of extra height, so standing that on top of a slab will definitely mean it ends up in the lava. Now, you'll notice that chicken there looked like it was taking damage. It's actually not. If you throw an egg at an entity, if you throw it, for example, at these chickens in here, oh, we just ended up with another one. You don't have to worry about them taking damage at all, because eggs don't actually cause damage to anything. It's like snowballs. They don't cause damage to anything except blazes. Eggs don't cause damage to anything whatsoever. So even though the dispenser in there is firing out eggs, that's what's damaging the baby chicken in there. And even that doesn't cause it to get propelled up into the lava. So the fact that the chickens are in there and the lava is pulsing from the dispenser, do not worry about that. The baby chickens in there are perfectly safe until they grow up into adults, and adults are the only ones that drop cooked or raw chickens. So that's kind of the thing we need. We need them to stay in there until they are adult-sized, and that's when they're going to get cooked. Now, naturally, having thrown around a couple of eggs inside this enclosure that I got from the chickens that are still on top of the hopper in the field over there, I now have more chickens running around this little area than I do inside the chicken cooker. But no worries, this should still be steadily filling up with eggs every now and again. There we go, we've got 10 in there already, so that is primed and ready to go when it receives the next egg. It'll come back down to 3, and it'll spit out a few more chickens, spit out some lava, and eventually the chickens gathered in this area will grow up and they'll end up getting killed. So there we go, one of the chickens in there has finally grown up, and you can tell because you can see its head through the top trapdoor instead of halfway through the bottom trapdoor. Fun fact that I just learned from looking up the Minecraft wiki, because this was taking a while, the chickens will actually take about 20 minutes to grow into full-size chickens from babies, whereas a chicken will lay an egg roughly every 6 to 10 minutes, or 5 to 10 minutes, I think it was. It was like 6,000 to 12,000 game ticks, which is about 5 to 10 minutes. So as a result, you're probably going to end up with quite a lot of baby chickens in here before they grow into adult chickens, which is a good thing, because you're going to be getting a whole lot of babies in there ready to grow up, and as soon as they grow up, pretty much the amount of eggs processing through this system will basically mean that you will get a couple of chickens each time. So eventually, when this thing actually fires, which, yes, it's going to take a while to do, this is very much a set it and forget it kind of project, we will end up with a cooked chicken coming into the chest here, thanks to that chicken up the top there dying in lava. And the drops are just going to come out of the bottom of it. The lava is not going to burn up the drops or anything like that. It all happens a little bit too fast for that. And I think in the long run, it would help to have a lot more chickens in here laying eggs, because we need this system to be running pretty much constantly. But like I said, this is very much a set it and forget it kind of project. It's the kind of thing that you would start right at the beginning of a server. As soon as you've got the components for this, put it together, make a comparator, make a couple of hoppers, make a couple of dispensers, get all of the chicken eggs you have and throw them in this thing, and then you'll basically have chicken for the rest of your life, roughly. As long as you build this in chunks that stay loaded for most of the time, because the chickens will need you to be around and for the chunk to be loaded for them to grow up. There we go, that chicken dies on fire, and we get 2 cooked chicken and 4 feathers. So it may be that there was another chicken that was an adult in there. I didn't spot it, but there we go. We have our first cooked chicken out of the chicken cooker, and we have some feathers that we can use for written books or arrows or whatever you feel like crafting out of feathers. So there we go. I'm glad we tackled this project, and our farm feels a little bit more complete for it. Like I said, this is very much something that you would probably want to build in the early days of your world, but it is certainly nice to have around. And that's going to wrap up this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.